Hi, and welcome back. Today, I had a request for a Necropotence deck, so I put this together, and it's more of a 95-96 build. Um, and then the decks I'll be playing, this one's going to be a Goblin deck, and then next I'll be playing my new Arnhem build, Arnhemageddon with a splash of blue build, just to show what it'd be like playing a 94-93 deck. So, here's game one versus the Goblin deck. All right. Start out with a City of Brass and pass turn, or sorry, City of Brass into a Brainstorm. And pass turn. He's got a Mountain and then a Mons Goblin Raiders. It's a Swamp. And a Hymn to Torok. I got a Mountain and looks like a Goblin Hero. Plays a Mountain and a Goblin Tinkerer. And what that does, you tap red, tap that, destroy target artifact, and then he takes damage equal to the artifact's casting cost. And that's a 1-2. So anything with 2 or more casting costs, and it'll kill itself. Alright, what I just played was a Limdol Vault. That's an Alliances card. It's black and blue. What you get to do is you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can choose to pay 1 life and put those cards on the bottom of your library. And then you can draw the next 5 cards. And look at those. Once you're finished, and you have the 5 cards you want, you can put them back on top of your library in any order, and then shuffle the rest of your library, and then put those 5 cards back on top of your library in any order. So I just used it once this time. I guess I decided I like the 5 cards, put them back in the right order, and then pass turn. So Limdol's Vault and Necropotence go really well together. Since you lose your draw step with Necropotence, this way you can kind of get the cards you want, and then you can draw them, as opposed to paying all that life. You just pay 1 life and get a look at 5 new cards. So, and that's an instant. It can be played at any time. All right, there's a Pestilence. All right, he swings for 3. I'm using 2 for the Pestilence, so both creatures will take 2 damage, and then both players take 2 damage. And if at the end of the turn there's no there's no creatures in play, Limdol's Vault goes away. There I am using Pestilence goes away. Now I'm using a Limdol's Vault. Looking at the top 5. I guess I like those, so I'm going to keep those. Then pass turn. And that Limdol's Vault should be in the graveyard. And on his side, there's a Goblin King. So Goblin King gives all goblins +1/+1. Then Goblin King is a 2/2. There's an Underground River. And there's a Necropotence. Looks like I use Necropotence for 4. And then I get to draw 4, and then I pass turn. So the way Necropotence works is you get the 4 cards at the end of your turn. Unlike the new card Grizzleband, where you can get it at any time and you get to keep the cards. So let's see here. I am at 2 life, looks like. I'm going to drain life. His Goblin King for 2. And that brings me to 4 life. You'll play a Goblin Hero, so that's actually a 3/3 now because of the Goblin King. And he attacks for 2, so it brings me back to 2. Looks like I'm drain lifing his Goblin Hero, so I'll gain 3 more life, and then back at 4. And I use Necropotence for 1, looks like. There's a Goblin Digging Team. So I think you can pay red, sacrifice it, destroy target wall. There's a Dark Ritual and Triskelion. Okay, so that's the Goblin War Drums. So what that does is each creature that attacks has to be blocked by at least 2 creatures. So technically he could have gotten through with either one of his creatures. So I had to use Triskelion to ping the Goblin King first, kill that. Then it brought his Goblin Digging Team down to a 1/1 since it lost its +1/+1 from the Goblin King. Then I was able to shoot my last counter at that, killing that. So there's a Hymn to Torak, taking 2 cards. That was a Kukis. That was a Mirage card. I think it's a 3/5 with Trample, and it's got Fire Breathing. But you have to have a Keeper of Kukis in play in order for it to not deal you 5 damage. And the Keeper of Kukis is actually a Goblin. He just laid that down too. It's 1 red, and it's 1/1, and you can pay red to give it protection from red. But you have to have that in play in order for Kukis to not deal you 5 damage every turn. So I ended up passing. There's nothing I could do. Necropotence, I wasn't able to draw anything. I only had 1 life left. There was nothing really I could do. I mean, I could keep attacking for 1, but as soon as I get a creature, I'm dead anyways. So on to game number 2. Swamp Ivory Tower. And Ivory Tower works really well with Necropotence because, you know, keep a full hand, and then I gain 1 life for every card after 4. There's also a Zurin Orb in there, so it's a 0 casting cost artifact. You sacrifice a land, gain 2 life. So between that, the Ivory Tower, and the Drain Life, you get a lot of life gain there. Alright, what he just laid down was a Goblin something. I forgot what it's called. It has some kind of special ability. I forgot. I think it destroys a wall or something. I'm not sure. There's an Underground River and a Swamp. And there's Lindell's Vault. So I'll draw my first 5, take a look at them, see if I like them. If I don't, I can pay a life, put those on the bottom, and draw 5 more. Take a look at those, see if I like those. If I do like them, like I said, I rearrange them, put them in any order, and put them back on top of my library. And I have to shuffle my library after I do that, or before I do that. Looks like I didn't shuffle my library, but I don't think it's going to matter very much. I only did it once, so. He lays down a Keeper of Kukis, and then he swings for 1. Swamp. Brainstorm. I'll take 1 damage from the Underground River. And that's the Ice Age Pain Land. You tap it for 1 colorless for free, or if you want to get a blue or black, it does 1 damage to you. So I've Brainstorm, still thinking about it. A swamp. I didn't think I laid down a swamp this turn, but he told me I had. So I guess I took it back. So I just ended up playing a Dark Ritual and then a Ashes to Ashes. So what the Ashes to Ashes does is a card from the Dark. It's 2 blacks and 1 other, 1 colorless. Remove 2 target creatures from the game, and then Ashes to Ashes deals 5 damage to you. So I took 5 damage, but I was able to remove 2 of his creatures from the game. Then I pass turn. He lays down another Keeper of Kukus. Alright, there's a hippie. And there's Underworld Dreams. And I'll swing for 2. Then he'll lose a card. And that was I think it's a Goblin Mutant or something like that. I think that's what it's called. It's an Ice Age card. It's a 5/3, but it can't attack if your creature has if your opponent has an untapped creature of power 2 or greater, and it can't block a creature of 2 or greater. So as long as my hippie was untapped, he wouldn't have been able to attack with that creature. And this is some kind of, it's Goblin something team. I can't tell what it is. There's all kind of different goblins in that deck. From Mirage, the Visions, to Ice Age. Alright, there's 4 for a Suchi. And then I swing for 2. Then I get to take another one of those cards. There's a Goblin King. I believe it's a 5th or 6th edition Goblin King. I'm not sure which one it is. And there's another Goblin Tinkerer. And he's the one who you can destroy artifact with. So he can technically destroy my Suchi. But it just came into play. He has no lands on tap, so it's all good. I swing for 6. Can't block the hippie, but he blocks the Suchi with his Keeper of Kukus. And so he'll take 2 damage and he'll lose a card. Looks like I got a Mons Goblin Raiders. And there's a Goblin Hero. He's a 2/2 for 3. I believe he's just vanilla 2/2. Then he swings for 2. And because he played the Goblin Hero, he didn't have enough mana left to destroy my Suchi this turn, so it's all good. I swing for 4 and 6, or 4 and plus 2. He blocks the Suchi, and he takes the 2 from the hippie. He loses a crown. I forgot what the name of that is, but that's an artifact. You tap it, and you can move an enchantment from one creature to another. It's an Ice Age. I forgot what it's called. Something crown. Crown of the Ages, I think that's what it's called. Okay, I swing with the Suchi again and the hippie. He'll take 2 and lose a card. And then he ends up dying from the Cinder Vampire. I let his Cinder Vampire down, so he ended up forfeiting. He'd have been dead next turn. Alright, this is game number 3. He starts with a Mountain. And Keeper Kugus. I start with Underground Sea and a Library Ling. So what that does is I skip my discard phase, so I don't have to discard anymore. And if a card forces me to discard, I can choose to discard to the top of my library. So I see a lot of that in like Land's Edge tax decks, so they can just keep all the cards in their hands because they're getting so much from their land tax or whatnot. So, all right, he had used a Bloodlust on his Keeper of Kukus, so I took 5 damage right off the bat. The black for 2 dark rituals and a Singer Vampire. And I think that's a Mons Goblin Raiders again. Different version of it. And I do him to Torak during my turn. He loses agility and something else. I didn't see what the other one was. And there's that Goblin Mutant again. So technically, he can't attack with that unless my Singer Vampire is tapped. That's what I'm explaining to him right now. So he attacks with those two. I'll block one, and then I'll take 1 damage. Then I pass turn. And there's a Goblin Hero. And I swing for 4. So it's in the air. He takes it. And then looks like there's a Drain Life for 3 on his Goblin Mutant. So I'll gain 3. And then I pass turn. Three, and there's Necropotence. Then I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I used it for 5. And he just laid down a Kukus. So with the Kukus and the Keeper Kukus, Kukus is good to go. It's a trample, like I said, 3/5 with fire breathing. And if you don't control at least one Keeper of Kukus, Kukus does 5 damage to you. I think he becomes tapped too. But he's got to keep a Kukus in there. So I'm brainstorming here. At the end of his turn. So swamp. And I drain life his Kukus. So I will gain 5 life. But I lose a couple from the Underground River. That's what I'm doing there. And then I take 5 cards from Necropotence. And I'm sorry, my phone died and I skipped a couple turns. But I was able to lay down a Mirror Universe on the next turn after he laid down another Goblin. So, with Necropotence in my hand and Mirror Universe down, what I will do is I will, at the beginning of, when he's finished, I'm going to, beginning of my upkeep, I'm going to switch life totals. He's going to go ahead and attack with all his creatures. I'll block 1, and then I'll take 3 damage, brings me to 1 life. I switch life totals, then I'll attack with a Singer Vampire, and he'll die. But I played a Ivory Tower, and I think a Triskelion as well, and I could just ping him with the Triskelion if I wanted to. So, yeah.